Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're diving into a market that might sound maybe incredibly niche at first glance, the global lithographic chemicals market. But trust me, you're going to quickly see how it's, well, foundational, really. It reveals so much about broader industrial and technological trends that, impact your daily life.
Yeah, what's truly fascinating here is how these chemicals, often completely unseen, play such a crucial enabling role. Understanding a market like this gives us these unique insights into the underlying health of the global economy and the actual pace of technological advancement. It's sort of the silent force behind so much of what we consider modern.
Absolutely. And for those thinking, okay, what exactly are lithographic chemicals? Just imagine the precision needed to etch tiny circuits onto a computer chip. Or, to produce those high-resolution, really vibrant prints, or even the advanced flexible displays we're starting to see more of. Lithographic chemicals are the unsung heroes making all that possible. Foundational to microelectronics, advanced optics, high-tech printing. So our mission for this deep dive is basically to navigate a pretty detailed market forecast, pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight, and ultimately make sense of the numbers shaping regions and countries from 2021 all the way through 2033. And all this incredible information, by the way, comes from a detailed market report by Cognitive Market Research. So let's jump straight into the global perspective then. In 2021, the lithographic chemicals market generated revenue of approximately $13.2 billion. dollars.
13.2 billion. Yeah.
That's projected to hit around $15.6 billion in 2025.
hmm
And then a really significant jump to nearly $21.8 billion by 2033. I mean, this isn't just steady growth. It's a truly strong, consistent upward trend over more than a decade.
Indeed. And that's not just, incremental growth, it's a substantial increase in a core industrial component. That kind of expansion implies really robust and widespread demand across numerous downstream sectors. It suggests the industries using these chemicals are also thriving and expanding pretty rapidly.
I agree completely. Yeah, that foundational demand really underpins the regional figures we're about to dive into. So let's break this down regionally, starting with North America. The revenue here stood at roughly $3.4 billion in 2021,
Hmm.
rising to nearly $4 billion in 2025, and it's projected to hit over $5.4 billion by 2033. Within North America, the United States is, well, as you'd probably expect, the dominant force, accounting for over $2.8 billion in 2021 and projected to reach over $4.6 billion by 2033. Canada also shows strong growth, moving from nearly $400 million to over $625 million. And Mexico is on the rise, too, from roughly $122 million to almost $247 million over that same period. Okay, moving across the Atlantic now, Europe's overall market value was approximately $3.7 billion in 2021.
Just slightly higher than North America back then.
Right, yeah. And it's growing to nearly $6 billion by 2033. What's your initial read on this European landscape?
Well, what's particularly interesting about Europe, I think, is the diverse growth patterns you see. We see consistent, strong performance from the industrial powerhouses like Germany, the UK, France. Germany, for instance, is projected to grow from over $800 million to over $1.2 billion by 2033. While the UK heads towards $900 million and France to nearly $660 million. Other nations like Russia, Italy, Spain are also seeing solid increases, each projected to exceed somewhere between, say, $440 million to $660 million by 2033. But then you have a few nations like Luxembourg with more modest growth, which kind of hints at varying industrial priorities or maybe market maturity.
And speaking of varying patterns, there's this really eye-catching surge in the rest of Europe
Oh,
category,
yes, that one.
which is projected to more than double from around $414 million in 2021 to an impressive $980 million by 2033. This surge is particularly interesting. Does it suggest maybe emerging manufacturing hubs, perhaps in sectors less mature than in, say, Germany or the UK?
Oh, absolutely. I think when we see growth this dramatic in an aggregated category like rest of Europe, it often points towards strategic investments in new high-tech zones. Could be driven by lower operational costs, maybe access to new markets or
Yeah.
specific governmental incentives aiming to, diversify their industrial base. It's a clear signal of industrial diversification and expansion beyond the traditional Western European manufacturing core. This is where innovation could be bubbling up in unexpected places, leading to new demand for these very specific chemicals.
That's a great hypothesis.
Mhm.
And the report does kind of hint at increased R&D spending in emerging EU tech clusters, which, yeah, would directly impact demand for these foundational chemicals.
Yeah.
And speaking of industrial powerhouses, let's transition to the Asia-Pacific region, which, not surprisingly, is the largest market globally.
Like fair margin, yeah.
Overall, APAC figures show roughly $4.35 billion in 2021, climbing robustly to over $7.36 billion by 2033. How does APAC's dominance in this market reflect the broader global trends?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, APAC's dominance isn't just about, raw manufacturing output. It really points to the region being at the forefront of innovation and production in highly lithography-reliant industries. Think advanced semiconductors, display technologies, high-precision electronics.
The cutting-edge stuff.
Exactly. China, as you see, continues to lead, projected to grow from over $1.7 billion to over $3 billion by 2033. Huge numbers. But what's equally compelling, I think, is India's truly notable growth, nearly doubling its market from around $778 million to over $1.3 billion.
Yeah, that really jumped out.
It indicates a significant expansion of domestic manufacturing capabilities and increased tech adoption within India itself.
You're right, India's growth is phenomenal. Japan and South Korea also remain strong, of course, each projected to reach over, $500 million to $740 million by 2033, underscoring their established roles in global tech supply chains.
Definitely key players.
And we also see solid contributions from Australia, Singapore, Southeast Asia, and Taiwan. And similar to Europe, that rest of APAC category shows a significant increase, going from over $320 million to nearly $650 million,
Right.
Which again suggests that broader regional industrialization trend happening across many developing economies in Asia. Okay, moving on, let's briefly touch on South America. Overall figures here are showing steady growth from roughly $527 million in 2021 to over $808 million in 2033.
Steady, yeah. Not the explosive growth of APAC, but consistent.
Right. Brazil, as the largest economy in the region, leads here, projected to grow from over $240 million to $375 million. Other notable players include Argentina, Colombia, Peru, and Chile, each also demonstrating consistent increases in demand. Now, let's look at the Middle East. Overall figures here are strong, over $856 million in 2021, reaching over $1.5 billion by 2033. What might be driving such significant growth in this region? Seems quite high.
Yeah, this raises an important question, really, about economic diversification. Many Middle Eastern nations are actively and quite successfully investing in non-oil sectors. Things like advanced manufacturing, technology infrastructure, even printing industries for media and education. Countries like Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and the UAE, each projected to exceed $270 million up to $379 million by 2033, are really spearheading these efforts. So this market expansion for lithographic chemicals is a tangible sign, you could say, of their success in building out these new industrial capabilities.
Makes perfect sense. Yeah, it's an indicator of their broader economic strategy actually playing out on the ground. Finally, let's round it out with Africa. Overall figures here stand at approximately $382 million in 2021 by 2033.
Almost doubling.
Yeah, South Africa and Nigeria are the key growth drivers here.
Yeah.
South Africa nearly doubling its market to over $314 million, and Nigeria moving towards $150 million.
Shows nascent but definitely significant industrialization taking hold in key African economies.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener?
Yeah.
Well, across every single major global region and country we just covered, there is a consistent, undeniable upward trend in demand for these lithographic chemicals. This isn't just about, printing presses anymore. It's about the very building blocks of modern technology. So to recap our deep dive today, the lithographic chemicals market, while maybe an unexpected focus, it paints a very clear picture. Consistent and significant global growth. It's an essential, kind of behind-the-scenes industry supporting a huge array of other crucial sectors, from electronics to advanced manufacturing, making precision possible.
Right, and these figures, they're not just abstract numbers on a page. They are powerful indicators of vibrant activity and expansion in industries reliant on lithography, which I think raises an important question for you to consider. What specific emerging technologies or even evolving consumer demands might be driving this widespread, sustained growth, especially in those regions showing the most dramatic increases? Is it the push for, say, more powerful, smaller devices, or maybe breakthroughs in flexible electronics, something else?
Indeed. Something to think about. What does this deep dive into the often unseen world of lithographic chemicals tell you about the future? The future of technology, manufacturing, and even the everyday products we all interact with. It really suggests a foundational basis for even more innovation yet to come. Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're your shortcut to getting smart about complex topics. Today, we're diving into something maybe a bit unseen, but absolutely vital. The global lithographic chemicals market. Now, you might not think about these chemicals day to day,
Probably not.
right? But they're really the hidden foundation of, well, almost all modern electronics. Think about your smartphone, your computer, all those smart gadgets. This market is right at the core of making the tiny, powerful chips inside them work. It's fundamental. So, okay, let's unpack this a bit. What are the big forces, really pushing this market forward right now?
Well, the biggest driver, honestly, is just the massive expansion we're seeing in semiconductor and electronics manufacturing itself. I
Okay.
mean, huge investments are happening. Think TSMC building fabs in Arizona, Intel in Germany. These multi-billion-dollar projects are directly boosting demand. We're looking at something like maybe an 18% jump year-on-year projected for these chemicals, particularly across Asia Pacific and North America.
And it's not just more chips being made, is it? It's about them getting smaller, radically smaller.
Exactly. That relentless push for miniaturization is key.
We're talking components getting down to, what, almost atomic scale. It's kind of mind-bending.
It really is. And to etch patterns that fine, you need incredibly sophisticated high-performance chemicals, photoresists, developers. They have to be perfect.
Which, for you listening, translates directly into faster phones, more efficient laptops, all that good stuff. Without these chemical stencils, as it were, you don't get the power we expect.
Absolutely. And that ties right into the big investments in advanced packaging and these new technology nodes.
Like 5 nanometer, 3 nanometer?
Yes, and even heading below 3 nanometers. We're manufacturing features smaller than like a strand of your DNA. That demands just extreme precision. And stepping back a bit, just the sheer volume of consumer electronics, smartphones, tablets, wearables, all the IoT devices that fuels the need for high-volume chip production using these advanced materials.
Okay, so demand is clearly surging, driven by our, well, seemingly endless appetite for tech. But, like any critical industry, it can't all be smooth sailing. There must be some significant hurdles, right? What challenges does this market face?
Oh, definitely. A major one is just the cost. Producing these ultra-high purity lithographic chemicals is incredibly expensive. The R&D, the manufacturing processes, the equipment, it's all highly sophisticated.
So it's tough for smaller companies to even get in the game.
Very tough. It creates a high barrier to entry, which means the market tends to be dominated by a few large players. And then there's the regulatory side. Environmental and safety rules are pretty stringent, and rightly so.
Because these chemicals can be hazardous.
Yes, they can pose health and ecological risks if not handled properly. So compliance, disposal, safety measures, especially in places like the EU or California, add significant cost and complexity.
Which raises a question about reliance, doesn't it? If the market depends on just a few suppliers for these super pure chemicals, doesn't that make the whole supply chain quite vulnerable to, say, geopolitical shifts or other disruptions?
That's a definite risk. That limited supplier base for the really cutting-edge, ultra-pure materials is a potential weak point. We've seen how disruptions can ripple through the tech industry.
Okay, so challenges aside, let's look forward.
Yeah.
Where is the industry heading? What are these sort of exciting trends shaping its future?
I think the biggest one, the real game changer, is the shift to extreme ultraviolet lithography, EUV.
Right. We hear a lot about EUV.
It's critical now for making the most advanced chips. It uses this incredibly short wavelength light to etch much finer patterns than ever before. And that naturally creates a huge demand for totally new photoresists and developers specifically designed to work with EUV light. Another key trend, driven by those environmental concerns we mentioned, is the push for greener chemicals.
Or sustainable options.
Exactly. Developing eco-friendly alternatives, chemicals with low VOCs, volatile organic compounds, things that release fewer harmful gases. Sustainability is becoming a major focus for innovation.
And tying this all together, thinking bigger picture, it seems like it's also a move towards bringing manufacturing closer to home.
Yes, definitely. We're seeing a significant push for localized manufacturing. Countries like the US, India, Japan, they're making strategic investments to build up their own domestic production capabilities for these critical chemicals.
Driven by worries about those supply chain risks.
Largely, yes. Geopolitical uncertainty and the desire for more secure, resilient supply chains are big motivators there.
So wrapping this up for you, our listener, it's clear this lithographic chemicals market, while maybe invisible to most, is incredibly dynamic. It's this constant interplay of innovation, regulation, global shifts, all underpinning the digital world we rely on.
Absolutely. And maybe a final thought to leave you with. Consider how the progress and the struggles in this essential chemical market directly shape what's possible in your digital life. The speed of your next computer, the features of your next phone, the capabilities of future AI, it all traces back, in part, to the ongoing advances happening right now in these fundamental chemical building blocks.